Hello there, Jarod the Dark Jedi here. As all of you are aware, the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild are both on strike. And after some consideration, it has been determined that review content, like what is mostly predominantly makes up a lot of what we produce, is still going to be not considered crossing the picket line. It is still encouraged by the Screen Actors Guild, who established new terms additional to what was being asked to be complied with the WGA. What we do here, the conversations we love to have with a bunch of our friends, to have with you guys, is not possible. The stories we love to talk about, the stories that we love, do not get made without the blood, sweat, tears, creativity, and brilliance of the writers and actors. And currently, the studios who produce the things we love are working these writers and actors to death, not compensating them appropriately, and are trying to replace them with AI. I would think it goes without saying that the Nerd Academy podcast stands staunchly with the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild, and we'll be supporting them from here until the end of these strikes in whatever way that we can. There will be links in each episode description so that you are able to see how you can help, where you can help, how you can donate to different funds to keep food in the belly and roofs over the heads of the writers and actors who are trying to make historic change in Hollywood as we speak. This review, this discussion, this news roundup, whatever the episode may be, was recorded during these strikes, and our love for the works of these writers, of these actors, will continue to be praised and discussed while they fight for their rights. And I want to implore everybody watching and listening to aid in whatever way they can. We stand in solidarity.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior webhead master. Big emphasis on that. Spider-Man 2 coming out this week. I wanted to be able to stream it. That's not going to happen quite yet. Streaming will become a thing once I'm able to have a studio, which again is coming along, I promise. But we're going to be talking about it week to week on air, as we do whenever Travis and I are both playing video games at the same time. So stay tuned for Spider-Man talk. First and foremost, cannot wait. Second thing on the docket, Patreon, $5 tier versus series. We're back. Porter Angle versus Count Dooku, featuring the one and only Alden Diaz of Octo Radio and Casterly Talk, joins us to talk about this clash between legendary swordsmen of the Jedi Order. So check that out. Subscribe to the Patreon at the $5 tier, and watch a massive back catalog of Patreon exclusive content. That said, thank you to new $5 patron, friend of the show, Buck O'Brien. You guys have seen Buck on our Ahsoka Collins streams. He was one of my unofficial co-hosts along with Eli of Around the Galaxy. So yeah, thank you to Buck for supporting the show and checking out the Versus series. Look forward to hearing his thoughts on it. But we have a fun show for you guys to get to. Obviously, I am recording this from the future. So assuming I have my way, what I want to happen while Travis and I are on the current schedule we have is for you guys to get episodes of TNAP on Mondays. I think that's a relatively reasonable time between episodes of Loki to get a review out. So stay tuned, and we're going to try to keep these coming as best we can. Again, schedules are crazy for Travis and myself. KNR is a little easier to pull off these days, but I'm going to be making sure we get week-to-week reviews of Loki out as best as I can manage. All of that said, before I throw you guys to our show this week, we do have to obviously give you a word from our lovely sponsors at Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill. Sunday's Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the multiverse, along with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix and their mild and traditional mixes if the spicy ain't for you. And if you want to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, you can go ahead and hit their award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, asparagus, and if you really want to get nasty, salt that rim for one of the most amazing Bloody Marys you'll ever have in your life. I am a former bartender. I guess I should say this one. I keep saying bartender like I still 10 bar. And I know how to make a damn good Bloody Mary from scratch. And let me tell you, between my own Bloody Mary and the Sundays, I'll take the Sundays any day of the week. So click the link below. And use the code TNAP, TNAP at checkout and get 10% off your order and help out your favorite movement while you do it.
All of that temporal pincer. There's that can crack. A temporal pincer movement that has seemingly been confirmed in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We did it again. We're good at Loki. We were very good at Loki. Pretend Mephisto never happened. Pretend that the Children of the Watch weren't in the pocket of the Empire. We're good at this. But before we jump into Loki talk, we have 2 stories to talk about. As is unsurprising, yet still just as disappointing. The MPTP has allowed negotiations with the Screen Actors Guild to fall apart. Hollywood unions are currently calling upon the studios to scrape their ego and greed up off the floor and come back to the table to talk, to allow the season of production to commence. At this point, it is pretty much a foregone conclusion that there is going to be a bit of a desert in terms of television and cinematic media coming out. I'm trying my best to avoid using the word content because I don't like when people call movies and TV content. It makes me angry. But we are going to have a bit of a drought in those formats because, of course, the AMPTP has decided that it would much rather allow this strike to continue than to pay its actors a meaningful wage and keep them protected and insured, because you see how well that's going for them now that there's a viral video going around of horrifying AI CG teenagers in the second row of a whatever fucking basketball show is on Disney Plus. That's a great look. It's sincerely a fantastic look that you let the negotiations completely fall apart at the seams and go, yeah, we can just use this.
And they genuinely thought that was good. They were like,
no one's going to notice. No one's going to notice. They definitely went, just because 2 of the biggest franchise IPs of all time exist on our streamer, that people kind of come with a little bit more of a fine-tooth comb to watch our shit. We, as the Walt Disney Corporation, are infamous for hiding fun little things in the background. Ooh, did you find the hidden Mickey? So surely they're not going to come with a little bit of visual scrutiny to notice the PS2 graphic teenager in the second row on the bleachers.
That's incredibly rude to the PS2. You apologize.
The
PlayStation
Game
1.
Boy.
Yeah.
This bitch crawled out of a Game Boy.
GoldenEye 64.
GoldenEye 64. Real quick before we continue, Travis, I just need you to know, a little plug. our first episode of the Versus series back is out. Porter Engel versus Count Dooku. Very happy with it. Very happy with how it turned out. It'll be released into the main feed eventually as a kind of a little appetizer for what goes on the Patreon. We were joined by special guest Alden Diaz because he was one of the people who was championing us doing this matchup. And I don't even remember the context for it. But at one point, Spencer, or no, I do remember the context for it now. You were talking about how Count Dooku managed to fend off Asajj Ventress plus 2 other Night Sisters while they were invisible and he was drugged. And Spencer took a beat and made a joke about a space roofie. And I said, not the space roofie. And then he goes, you know what she gave him? Quaaludes! And I was like, oh fuck, I need the Quaaludes guy on our stream or in our like arsenal of clips. I have no idea what context I would ever get to use fucking Quaaludes. But I need him back.
From Brooklyn's back. www.thekidfrombrooklyn.com. Rest in power.
Rest in power. Fucking A.
We didn't deserve that legend.
We didn't. One last quick story. This is probably going to be a bit of a shorter episode, guys. It was light on news and just have TV talk to do. And I didn't get a chance to watch Gen V this week. We had a huge story break, I believe, from the Hollywood Reporter. Daredevil hits reset button as Marvel overhauls its TV business. Launched during the pandemic with a playbook to shoot $150 million plus seasons with no pilots, the Disney unit is undergoing growing pains and seeing the logic of traditional TV culture. It's from Boris Kitt. It didn't take long to see the problem after Marvel Studios' Daredevil Born Again and production in mid-June during the writer's strike. Fewer than half of the series' 18 episodes had been shot. But it was enough for Marvel executives, including Kevin Feige, to review the footage and come away with a clear-eyed assessment. The show wasn't working. So, in late September, Marvel quietly let go of head writer Chris Ord and Matt Corman, and also released the directors for the remainder of the season as part of a significant creative reboot of the series. The studio is now on the hunt for new writers and directors for the project, which stars Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, the blind lawyer turned superhero. The Daredevil revamp is the latest in a series of growing pains for Marvel Television. Since debuting the Emmy-winning WandaVision in January of 2021, the studio, which dominated the film industry in the 2010s, has released more than 50 hours of television programming after creating a small screen division from the ground up during the pandemic. Though, through it all, the company eschewed the traditional TV making model. It didn't commission pilots, but instead shot entire $150 million plus seasons of TV on the fly. It didn't hire showrunners, but instead depended on film executives to run its series. And as Marvel does for its movies, it relied on post-production and reshoots to fix what wasn't working. Even though they remain, along with Star Wars titles, most watched on Disney Plus, Marvel series have recently faced a number of creative challenges and cries of diminished returns from critics and audience metrics, causing a major shift at the studio to make TV more in a traditional way. Blah, blah, blah. We're trying to marry the Marvel culture with the traditional television culture, says Brian Windenbaum, Marvel's head of streaming television and animation. It comes down to how can we tell stories in television that honor what's so great about the source material. With Daredevil's new direction, Marvel hopes to right the ship on a project with sky-high expectations. The show is Marvel's first to feature a superhero who already had a successful series on Netflix running 3 seasons. But sources say that Corman and Ord crafted a legal procedural that did not resemble the Netflix version, known for its action and violence. Cox didn't even show up in costume until the 4th episode. Marvel, after greenlighting the concept, found itself needing to rethink the original intention of the show. Marvel plans to keep some scenes and episodes, though other serialized elements will be injected, with Corman and Ord becoming executive producers on the two-season series. Daredevil is far from the first Marvel series to undergo drastic behind-the-scenes changes. Those who work with Marvel on the TV side have complained of a lack of central vision that has, according to a source, begun to afflict the studio's shows with creative differences and tension. TV is a writer-driven medium, says one insider familiar with the Marvel process. Marvel is a Marvel-driven medium. On the Oscar Isaac starred Moon Knight, show creator and writer Jeremy Slater quit, and director Mohammed Daib took the reins. Jessica Gao developed and wrote She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, but was sidelined once director Kat Corio, I am so sorry, came on board. Production was challenging, with COVID-19 hitting cast and crew, and Gao was brought back to oversee the post-production, a typical showrunner duty. But it's the rare Marvel head writer who has such an oversight. Even though the company does not have a writer's first approach to television, directors could feel shortchanged as well. The whole fix it and post attitude makes it feel like a director doesn't matter sometimes, says one person familiar with the process. As its shows ramped up during the pandemic, Marvel stepped outside its usual staffing approach and brought in outside execs after years of internally promoting creatives who had sufficiently trained in the Marvel method. This change was felt most severely on Secret Invasion, the Samuel L. Jackson-led thriller that stands as Marvel's worst reviewed series. Kyle Bradstreet, a writer and executive producer on USA Network Emmy winner Mr. Robot, had been working on the scripts for Secret Invasion for about a year when he was abruptly replaced after Marvel decided on a different direction. Enter new writer Brian Tucker, who penned the crime thriller Broken City. Thomas Bazooka, there's no way that's your name. Bezucha. I was like, these are all the sounds these letters are supposed to make, and it says bazooka. Who helmed the thriller Let Him Go, and Ali Salim, who worked on Hulu's 9/11 dramas The Looming Tower, were onboarded as directors to help crack the story. So far, so normal, at least by Marvel's creative development standards. Details are murky, but what happened next in the summer of 2022 debilitated the production as factions became entrenched and leaders vied for supremacy during Secret Invasion's pre-production in London. It was weeks of people not getting along, and it erupted, says an insider. Marvel declined to directly comment on the matter. The company dispatched Jonathan Schwartz, a senior executive and member of Marvel's creative steering community known as the Parliament, to get Secret Invasion back on track when it was falling behind schedule on the verge of losing some actors because of their comments. There is nothing more Marvel than a secret collective called the Parliament. That fucks.
Yeah.
That kind of goes hard. By early September, a good portion of the Secret Invasion team had been replaced with new line directors, unit production managers, and assistant directors. And Bazooka, who was supposed to direct 3 episodes, left the show because of new scheduling conflicts. The Marvel executive overseeing the show, Chris Gary, was reassigned and, according to sources, is expected to depart Marvel when his contract is up at the end of the year. As it moves forward, Marvel is making concrete changes in how it makes TV. It now plans to hire showrunners. Gal's post-production work on She-Hulk helped Marvel see that it would be helpful for its shows to have a creative through line from start to finish. It's a term we're not only grown comfortable with, but it also learned to embrace, says Windenbaum of showrunners and Marvel TV's intention to hire them. The studio also plans on having full-time TV execs rather than having executives straddle both television and film. We need executives that are dedicated to the medium, that are going to focus on streaming, focus on television, says Windenbaum, because they are 2 different forms. So yeah, also they plan on starting to write actual pilots and show Bibles. Marvel TV, I've been overall positive with Marvel television, and I don't want this to become some revisionist history of it was always all bad, because there's some really great stuff in there, and at the very least, great, incredible moments in okay shows. I don't think there's any denying that even stuff that's a little bit towards the middle of the pack, like a Moon Knight, doesn't have, or What If doesn't have some like wild, incredible moments. I tried to clean off my glasses and I made it worse.
As is the case with most people who wear glasses.
Yeah. Now I can't see shit. But I will say, it is encouraging to hear that they might be going back towards a more traditional model. I think that both. I think it is a easier format to work with instead of this weird cobbled together, very studio driven format. I also think that on the whole, there's tried and true traditions of making television. That means that you're going to have more, oversight, and there's more of
That
a
are
baked in
probably
culture for workers that I think is also going to be healthier.
Yeah, and I think that process for them overall would have been more expensive. I'm not saying they shouldn't, like, it's a reason not to do it, but like, the reason that matters is because, and the reason they've gotten away with this for so long is all of their shows are 6 episodes, right?
Yeah.
They're producing 4.5, 5 hours of television per series. And they have gotten away with not developing it like a TV show and developing it like an uncut movie.
Yeah.
And so it does not surprise me that where this broke down was the 18 episode Daredevil, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if Born Again came out and he didn't suit up till episode 4? Could you
Well, here's
imagine
what
what the
here's
internet
what
would
I'll
do?
say. Honestly, I'm curious to see what the legal procedural they made it
I'm
would have looked like.
We would have loved it. We would have been here like, this is so sick. I love watching Matt Murdock do his thing.
Well,
I
because
can't wait. But like,
it's the one thing I vehemently disliked about She-Hulk was that like the legal stuff was set dressing.
mhm.
I'm not going to pretend that I'm some like legal junkie and that I say this after Bombadcast this week where it was a courtroom. But I'm not going to pretend that I'm like some fucking legal scholar or someone who like has a deep appreciation of that type of media beyond your average Joe. But I was really disappointed going into She-Hulk Attorney at Law for all of the scenes that happen in a court to feel like they're doing everything in their power to grind through it as fast as they can with as little like actual legal stuff happening. It did not feel like it did not feel like a single actual trial or even a single arbitration. None of them felt like actual courtroom scenes. They just kind of glided right through it and skipped over kind of an important part of the show. Now, the rest of the show made up for it. I loved it. Again, it's either it goes back and forth between Loki as my favorite Disney Plus show, Mr. Marvel Disney Plus show. But the idea of we're going to get a Marvel legal show, part of my brain goes, well, I'm glad we are finally. I thought that I was going to get that with She-Hulk, but yeah, people will that episode 4 until they suit up. Man, fanboys have been rioting.
Yeah, just imagine Twitter. Imagine Twitter on week 2, because week 1 it would have been like, okay, we gave him 1. Week 2, he doesn't put the suit on. People would have been losing their minds. Week 3,
they would have J6 Marvel Studios.
Yeah, like hashtag boycott Marvel. They would have been trending. People would have been pretending to cancel their Disney Plus subscriptions. I say pretending because they would have canceled it and immediately turned it back on after they posted the tweet about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, no, people would have lost their mind. And then, on one hand, like, that a situation like that, like I hear they didn't let Daredevil suit up until episode 4, and there's a part of me that just wants to pick fucking fights. It's like, good, keep that in the show.
Like,
keep that in the show.
Bit. Commit to
you know what? Because you know why? Because superhero stories can happen when characters aren't in tights, and I know the exact type of fan who would have been fucking infuriated by that, and I want them to be angry. I want them to lose their fucking minds. I want to see the woke Daredevil because they're, you know, I want it to happen as much as I want more Daredevil, namely Daredevil doing Daredevil shit. Oh, the spite is strong with this one. And I think it would have been so deeply, deeply funny.
Yeah.
But that is on its own. The real quick, another part from the article here. Some of its next shows, in fact, promise to be more personal stories. Echo, which premieres in January now, I forgot that it got delayed, is a grounded crime story with few visual effects revolving around deaf Native American anti-hero Maya Lopez, who we met in Hawkeye. Wonder Man, a show that was paused because of the writers and actors strike, is meant to be a behind-the-scenes look at Hollywood and a character study of Simon Williams, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, a superhero who has a side gig as an actor and stunt person. So yeah, we have some coming around the corner. You know, I look forward to this new approach to Marvel television. We'll see how it shakes out. Yeah, and Daredevil, don't even look at that fucking suit until episode 4. Fuck him. Fuck him. Fuck him. Fuck him. Fuck 'em.
Would you settle for episode 3?
Sure. I just want to
Okay.
watch. Well, now that this detail is out, there's going to be a shot clock on when he puts on the fucking suit. And
First 5 minutes he's in the suit, and you're like,
I'm going to be so mad. I'm going to boycott the fucking show. I'm going to boycott the show if it opens with Matt in full ketchup and mustard busting ass. I'm going to be livid. And again, this is up to the storytellers. You know, I am not the type of person to say whether or not something is good or bad. It is a matter of whether or not it works. You know, like when it comes to like just hearing about something, and like what could be, but don't let him touch the suit. Don't let him touch the suit. It'd be so funny. It'd be so fucking funny. I'm here. I'm in troll mode for that one. One other little nugget. Jack Shackman is implying that kind of what Travis talked about last week, that there are offers ready to be sent to actors for Fantastic Four, ready to go. Here, let me pull that up real quick, actually.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, because, like, you know, if they were in talks before there's nothing. If they had everything ironed out and just haven't been handed the official contract to, like, look over, and, like, because you know, the AMPTP is being shitheads. And, like, terrible, terrible, awful. The people that physically type up the contracts are the people like sitting in an office making a normal salary and not negotiating on those contracts, and they probably want the contracts to go well so they can continue doing their job. So like they've probably had this, like they've had a working document of a contract for these actors that they know are going to get the job when like this is all over, typed up with like little fill in the blanks of the different, like, okay, and here's where when they settle on this part of the contract and they settle on this part, here's what we can offer them. But I can't hit send on the email until it's time, you know?
Yeah. Real quick, an exclusive from Collider. Says what?
I'm just laughing at the way you said that.
Said what? I just said it's an exclusive from Collider. And because Collider has a nice little thing on their website that encourages you not to fucking read their articles. Because within the first quarter of the page, it says the big picture, and it's just bullet points, you know? Because why would you read? Hey, you guys are real fucking journalists. You got this good exclusive, though.
I can't read. So this is fine for me.
Yeah, this is perfect for Travis, even though it's still just text.
It's less I have to highlight and hit read aloud.
But anyway, in that convenient don't actually read our articles page, director Matt Shackman confirmed that his upcoming Fantastic Four film will shoot in London next year, pending the resolution of the ongoing SAG-AFTRA strike. Casting for the film cannot be announced yet due to the strike, but Shackman expressed excitement in sharing the news once the strike is resolved. Shackman hinted that the Fantastic Four movie will be different from anything we've seen in the Marvel Universe before in terms of story and filmmaking approach. So there you go. That's all I needed to tell you. It's almost like Collider doesn't want me to actually read this exclusive interview with Matt motherfucking Shackman. So yeah, I have heard he's a little sizzle. I have heard some rumblings that a certain actor who has let me put it this way, and I am not going to, I sworn to secrecy, but I have heard that a certain actor, in the event that Reed Richards and Sue Storm have their kids already, which is something we've heard floating around, that if Reed and Sue are already parents, that this actor would slide right into the role of a father pretty seamlessly. Do with that what you will.
I will think about it for a couple of minutes and probably forget and not know who it is.
Anyway, all of that. Loki. We got Loki to talk about. This was a fantastic episode.
It is funny though, and like, you know, I agree that overall very good. I felt this way about episode 1 too. There are moments in the dialogue that feel incredibly off to me. And I'm wondering if that approach we just talked about doesn't partly play into it.
Perhaps.
In this episode specifically, that when they're having the pie conversation.
I loved that scene. I thought that was
I also
super
loved
well
that scene,
acted.
but there is overall the scene's perfect. That's not true because I'm about to complain about it. But but the English language
Overall,
is
it's perfect, except for my glaring criticism.
The main conversation is great. Loki has one line that kind of cuts through everything as like, we didn't know how to progress the plot from here and we need to. And Loki has had several lines of dialogue like the character, not the show, but also the show, but the character has had multiple lines of dialogue of, so now that we've had this insightful conversation, how do we progress the plot? And I don't remember the exact line, and if it happens again next week, I will actually like write it down so I remember. But
Travis is realizing he has his own memory gauntlet where it's like, why is this thing that keeps happening really glaring to me?
yeah. Like it definitely happened at least once in episode 1, but like I was fine with it because I was also doing the okay, wait, who's who? What happened? I haven't watched Loki since Loki came out.
Yeah.
And in this episode, I was like, I have a better sense of what's going on. I don't remember exactly who X5 is, but like he looks familiar, I guess. And I might just have to go back and like, you know, blitz out Loki season 1 really quick to be reminded of some things.
I believe that X5 is a character new to this season.
They are talking to him like he was interacting with him a lot last time.
I don't remember X5. I do believe that the whole point is that like it's supposed to kind of give us whiplash. That he's like this decorated hunter. He might be more of like a Glup Shido last season, but I believe he is more new to the show than they want us to feel like he is.
Well, I'll do my diligence and actually do some research next time and come back with an answer. But my point is, like, during the pie scene in particular, Loki has a line of like, now that we've had this heart to heart, and like I love those moments of them bonding as friends.
Yeah.
You know, and like even like Mobius later when they're in the McDonald's where he's like, "Well, what's your movie about? I bought you like this is fine. I bought you food." Or like he's like, "You tortured me." Yeah, but I bought you a shake. Like that's hilarious. You know?
That should be Ron DeSantis's new campaign slogan.
He wouldn't buy anyone a shake.
Warmonger at Guantanamo Bay. Hey, you want a milkshake?
He wouldn't
As
buy
long as
anyone a
it's,
shake.
as long as it's not woke. Meatball Ron. Anyway,
Wears high heels.
his fucking high heels. It's so funny.
Boots that are missing toes and his awkwardly long leg bones that imply he's wearing heels. But yeah, that's like my only complaint right now. Is the...
Travis was like, I just sent Jared to do an existential tailspin. I need to kill the dead air.
It's like I just told him about something to look out for anytime he sees a video of Ron DeSantis anywhere.
I know about it. I know about the hidden heels, and I just started thinking about it, and my brain shut off for a second.
Yeah, it's the most Republican shit you've ever heard.
Right. I'm wearing fucking $1,000 cowboy boots with hidden heels in them because I want to look taller because I need to feel like a big man because the Republicans won't like me.
But yeah, I really enjoy the dialogue. I enjoy what's happening in the show. I think it's really interesting. But there are moments where like you can feel, and it kind of plays back to what they're talking about with how the writers' room works, where like they're kind of filling in as they go.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get to that point of like we have A and C, and B doesn't have to be very big, but there has to be something to get us to C.
Well, I mean, you say that. I know there's some like weird feeling of the episode just kind of starts. You know,
that too.
like it feels like there's a scene missing with like them going, "Oh, X5 is on the sacred timeline, and he pruned his original self, and now he's living the life of an actor." And you know, like there's no scene that's like, "Hey, we have to go to the sacred timeline to recover X5 because of blah blah blah."
Right.
They just kind of show up. Now, here is what I think might be going on there, and what I think would be cool. Going back to the temporal pincer movement theory, I think it would be cool if we end up seeing that setup later.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we might. I think there are things happening with this season that, you know, the idea. I think that Loki season 2, and again, this is only after 2 episodes. We don't have a whole lot to base this off of yet. So far, I think Loki season 2 might be marrying the what does it mean to be Loki theme statement of the first season with the time travel itself a little bit better. Because last season, the TVA, the timekeeper stuff, a lot of it was mostly it felt kind of more like set dressing and like this fun liminal space to put them into where their magic wouldn't operate the same way, and that they are being hunted by this very, you know, powerful organization that is like kind of on top of all the shit that Loki would ever be able to use to their advantage. That we now this season, now that time is coming unfurled, there is a little bit like not only are we getting more of this the actual time travel shit, you know, something that was, I don't want to say lacking in the first season, but just like we didn't see a whole lot of. There wasn't actually a whole lot of time travel in Loki season 1. There was the, you know, they go to the apocalypse where he and Sylvie fight in a Walmart, and then they go to Lamentus, and then, you know, they get pruned. Which again, I'm not saying it's a fault. I'm just saying that like we are getting more in the weeds of the time travel stuff. And I was almost worried that the existentialism of what Loki is experiencing would go away. That this like grand, almost horrific existential mirror that is constantly being held up to him because of what's happening, would slip away because the story became more about stopping a pan-dimensional fucking apocalypse because of the timeline going ape shit, and be less about what makes Loki Loki across the multiverse. How do you acquire Lokiism? And the fact that, we as the audience, I feel like need to keep in mind that this season takes place immediately after the first, because it's been so long.
Yeah.
That even though Loki experiences so much in that first season, he is still willing within his soul to play you want Loki the villain. You want Loki the spiteful conqueror. You want Loki the duplicitous rat fuck. Okay. That he's still in that place where he can bring that out. And I think it's one of the things that I love so much about this story is that it was one of my favorite things about the finale of season 1 was that Loki is put in a situation where the thing he would have wanted the most in the universe to become the god of time itself, to sit in that seat and be the one responsible for setting and resetting the timeline for the people who experience it, how they experience it, the resetting the experiences of those who keep the garden of the timeline for you, and get to be the mastermind of how it all plays out. That is something Loki would have jumped at in a second in his previous life.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've put him in a situation where, despite the fact that he feels like he's grown so much and isn't that like spiteful, I want to take over the universe because you didn't love me, Dad type behavior. Now you put him in a situation where he as objectively as I think he can, looks at what He Who Remains wanted to do and goes, oh, we have to do this. This is the right thing to do. I want the TVA to exist, but like it comes with this inherent temptation of, so are you going to run it? Are you, after everything that's happened, is the ball somehow going to fall into your court that you get to take over this pan-dimensional fucking Gestapo? Does this belong to you? Have you decided that it will? I love that about this show. I love the idea that the grand conceit of this is to grow Loki as a hero, to grow him as somebody who is making decisions for others than just himself, and to then put him in a situation where I do think he sincerely thinks that the TVA stands to do more good than harm. But he has to then explain to everybody around him, I promise this isn't just a grab for power, despite the fact that that is what I am known to do all the motherfucking time. I love that about this show. I love that about how he is framed. I love it about how the conflict of this show is framed. And it's something that like I think is going to become a huge linchpin of either this show moving forward or maybe this season, where like B-15 is like, we fuck this shit. No, no more. No more. And as noble as that is, and as much as B-15 and Loki are on the same side, at least for now, how many times has Loki already said that the TVA must exist? How many times has Loki said that He Who Remains was right? And that because Sylvie whacked He Who Remains, everything's coming unfurled and he needs help to put it all back in a box. Like, Loki is very much okay, I think, with like, or maybe he's not okay with like the pruning as a whole or the time bombs or whatever.
I got the vibe that like his approach is possibly, instead of cutting the timelines, hunting Kangs.
He could be hunting Kangs. It does not seem like Loki is okay with like General Docs just fucking carpet bombing timelines.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, he finds it deplorable. There's a reason why he leaps into action. But I'm curious as to what he thinks the right prescription is, because I do think you're right. I do think there's going to be some element of like we need to find the Kang variants because they are going to be the ones to bring the most, discord across the universe or across the multiverse.
Well, it's like, and for his rationale, like the thing he's worried about isn't all of these multiversal timelines. He's worrying about the Kang variants. Like that's the thing that scared him. And so if in his rationale, if they don't have to stop the timeline, if they can hunt down as new branches form, now granted it happens faster than they can keep up with, it doesn't work. What he wants will not work. But
yeah,
I think maybe in his mind it's we don't have to stop the branch, we just have to stop the Kang. And that's enough to keep us, keep what we're doing meaningful and saving people without having to like decimate entire timelines.
Yeah.
But also like he might just be saying like, no, we gotta cut this off before it gets too bad.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm very excited to see where Loki ethically lands in this conundrum because I do think it's fascinating. But all of that said, the moments where Brad, fucking phenomenal episode title, by the way, Breaking Brad. The watching the interrogation and torture of Brad, it was phenomenal stuff. I can't remember the name of the actor. It was fun watching Loki get Loki'd because again, we as the audience need to remember this is not Loki who's you'll never be a god. With Thanos, this is Avengers 1 Loki. So he just got done doing this to Black Widow and Fury and Thor, and he just got done doing this. For him, that was like a week ago.
Yeah,
which is also dubious because time works differently in the TVA. So who fucking knows? But like, for the sake of argument, it was like a week ago he was doing this whole spiel to the Avengers. I think it's fun to watch someone flip it on him. And I do love the fact that Loki, he's able to just take these indictments on the chin because again, on some level, I think in his own mind, he doesn't think Brad is too far off. It is the moments where he attacks Sylvie, where he's like, no, she is not a villain. She does not make things worse. She has been running from you. Like, I do think there's something interesting that like Loki's instinct to defend people despite their own similarities to his behavior, that he's like, no, you're wrong, because here are all the nuances as to why Sylvie isn't what you're saying she is. Whereas he, and in a very Loki needs a hug kind of way, is like, oh yeah, I'm a villain. I suck. And again, I think part of that is he's trying to be better and he's like taking that on the chin because it'll let, he's letting Brad spin his fucking wheels. But it was just
doing
a very
I did the bad thing. Sylvie was given the title of person that does bad things while trying not to die. That's the difference.
Yeah. Again, it was a very nuanced, very complex, very emotionally resonant scene. I loved it. I also potential. Hey guys, what next? Line of dialogue aside, the moment where Loki's following Mobius through the hallway, and then they end up in the automat to eat. I love that scene. I love the sincere concern. Again, like just Tom Hiddleston had his incredible performance as Loki has been such a given for so long that I feel like we don't talk about it enough. How fucking good this guy is at this character. Like, there is the sinister, I'm having fun being evil. we get it all in this episode, and you get that sincere concern. He's like, "Hey, talk to me. I'm not judging you." Like that was like that line of dialogue leaving Loki's mouth was kind of like a like almost like an emotional. I don't know. Pick me up isn't the right phrase. It made my ears perk up. I mean, like, yeah, he isn't judging you. Like, Loki sincerely cares about Mobius, and that beat of, hey, talk to me. Like, because Loki's speaking from the perspective of somebody who knows how to get in somebody else's head, but he's also not as good at it as he thinks because, you want to get the red out of your ledger. You brought the monster here, not me. Like he can't help but monologue like B5. So I think I like the fact that he also goes, okay, well, what could the Avengers not do to me? Physically make me fucking talk. What can I do to him? I can put him in a terrifying liminal cube and crush him to death. Which, hey, there's a little light torture to try to save trillions of lives. We'll let you deal with the ethics here. So I thought that was I loved all the stuff with X5. I loved the action in the little time bomb chamber once they link up with Sylvie. Because I'm going to talk about Sylvie a little bit later. It was just a really fun mix, where, and I think that it's because we haven't had like a big team up in a while that we haven't gotten to have that fun thing where like you got your martial arts people over here and they're, doing kicks and flips and shit. And then you got your tech savants like shooting lasers. And then you got your magic people. And then you have people with more gimmicky superpowers doing their thing. And it's all happening at once. It was really fun to see that like smorgasbord of like fighting, maybe it's a little lightsaber go burr adjacent. But the magic paired with the straight up martial arts paired with like the tech stuff with the TVA toys. I that was a really fun sequence. I also love this element of a rogue portion of the TVA. Coming back to the Sylvie stuff, I'm really fascinated by what they're setting up with, like, again, this Sylvie temporal pincer movement. That I want to know what gets her to come back to the TVA so badly, and I want to like I like this idea because you got to figure Sylvie, the way she has experienced time for so long has been so weird. Like, remember last week we were in the 70s when she gets spit out and starts working at McDonald's, when she goes into that McDonald's. When we pick up, it's the 80s. It's toward the end of the 80s. So she's been working at this McDonald's for a decade. Like, Sylvie has lived a peaceful 10 years.
Even though the same kid works there?
Is it the same kid? I just kind of assumed that it was like there's always going to be a fucking kid like this.
I'm pretty sure it was the same kid that like greets her when she comes in.
See, I just kind of got the vibe that it's like there's always going to be a kid like this at McDonald's.
I'll have to go back.
Maybe not. Maybe not, because I remember last week it's like, boom, we're in the 70s, boom, we're in the 80s. Maybe it's not a full 10 years. Maybe it's not a full 10 years and the kid's just a little bit older. But still, like, Sylvie has experienced, like she has a life here now. She has lived a considerable amount of time just doing her own fucking thing by her fucking
It'd be
self.
really funny if it was an error on screen and it was supposed to be 70s.
That'd be funny.
It's more meaningful the way you put it. I think it'd be really funny if they screwed up. Like, I don't want to discount what you're saying. I agree. Like, because her whole goal has been, I just want to sit down and live for an amount because like she has a vehicle that she owns.
Yeah, she has
Clearly,
a truck.
she's been there for at least a few years. But like, and maybe it's like it was 79 and now it's 81. You know, that's also a possibility.
Yeah.
But it'd be so funny. It would be through all of that stuff we just talked about. Where like we've seen it before, where the After Effects fuck up something like really minor like that. And you know, if next week we go back and check and the numbers switched,
I truly don't think something like that would slip through. I would be stunned if they fucked up that hard. There's
jeans
no
guy, Starbucks cup, jeans guy, like we're
okay. Star Wars Cup or Starbucks Cup and Jeans Guy are one thing. Special effects accidentally creating a situation where you have jumped an entire decade continuity wise, someone would have caught that.
Spider-Man Homecoming says that it takes place in 2020.
Well, I mean, people have said you can finagle that timeline, and it's just a little. You gotta condense some stuff, but
I disagree. I don't think it works. Oh, it doesn't work because like again, Avengers says it takes place in 2012. Canonically, like we've been told it's 2012. And if Civil War takes place in 2016 and Spider-Man Homecoming is immediately preceding Civil War, he can't be in high school for 4 years. Like he's a freshman or sophomore or whatever when we meet him in Civil War, and he's still in high school. It can't be like it just can't be 2020.
okay.
Especially when we know Infinity War is 2018 and we know After the Blip is 2023. Like especially now that we have those concrete moments set. It like 2020's right in the middle of the blip. Peter Parker is dust in 2020. So
we'll see.
I fully believe. Yeah, and like again, that's not a knock on the visual effects people. It's like there's a control system that's in place where someone makes that graphic and it looks good. And they literally just either they read the script wrong, they typoed because 7 and 8 are next to each other, whatever it is. And then the person that was supposed to sign off on it didn't look at it and went, good. Good enough. Send it to print.
Maybe. But I do love that Sylvie, you know, again, she's like, hey man, fuck you. I don't want anything to do with this shit. I found my happy. I'm not part of this game anymore.
I make Big Macs. I drive my truck. That's all I want.
I make Big Macs. I drive a truck. I know this pimple-ridden fuck like bars, but I do love her characterization. But I do also love that when they're like, yeah, they're about to carpet bomb like reality. That you know she steps up to the plate, and then it immediately comes to that condemnation of like, I'm not here to fight your little time war, man. Let me live my life. And it is setting up an interesting arc for Sylvie to like come back to the TVA to try to help fight this fight. Just really, and again, Sophie DeMartine, phenomenal, just phenomenal. I love Sylvie so much as a character. I love the way that she bounces off of Loki. I love the way that you have this interesting dynamic of showing how Loki as a concept is always destined to do some fuck shit, but then you look into how that Loki got here, and it's a lot of fun nature and nurture stuff. Sylvie never had a chance. Loki made these choices. That I do think is just it makes for a fascinating dynamic. I also you could tell this is a branch timeline because McDonald's had a working ice cream machine.
That's
That's
the canon event that gets this place pruned. Is you can get a
They
fucking
actually
milkshake
decide
at this place.
they're cleaning their ice cream machines regularly.
Yeah, truly. I just thought that was funny that everybody had a milkshake this episode, and I'm like, that doesn't happen at McDonald's. No, that was all very interesting. God, dude, what's going on with Renslayer and Kang, man? Ooh, I was like, oh, okay, so they're in cahoots at first, and now like with the whole Miss Minutes has been confirmed to have just kind of fucked off element.
Uh-huh.
I'm very curious what's going on there. You know, also OB. I love this idea that OB, I've seen this floating around, is like because he is so much a part of like the foundations of the TVA. Again, I maintain that I don't think he's ever had his memory wiped. I love this idea that because he knows so much about the TVA and he's been kind of forgotten by everybody involved with it, Kang including, that he's going to kind of end up being the undoing of whatever this plot is. Because you just have this one guy who knows too much, who is incredibly capable, whose heart is just so aggressively in the right place. I love that as a characterization for him. I think that is perfect for Ke Huy Quan as an actor. I love this man so much. I find it very fascinating, this whole idea that like the wrong temporal aura, that I think either means that they're going to need, he says, either Miss Minutes to override the lock. Miss Minutes voiced by the embattled Tara Strong. Yikes on that one. But that it's either going to be Miss Minutes undoes it, or they find some way for either Renslayer or a Kang to do it. Because that temporal aura has to be like we need Kang. We need a Kang.
Yeah, someone that registers as a Kang.
I've seen people supposing that Ravonna Renslayer might herself be a Kang, and that it might be a darker mirror of Sylvie and Loki, which I find interesting. I don't know if I love that one as much, but I do think it's fascinating. So yeah, with the talk of them having a hit on Ravonna Renslayer's tempad, I do think next week is going to be the Victor Timely episode. So, anybody who has some feelings about Mr. Jonathan Majors, just be aware that I think next week we will be seeing him. And we'll get to that when we get to it. And all of the caveats that we're going to have to attach to a lot of statements next week. With that, Travis, you have any other thoughts on this week's Loki?
It was good. I came into it directly off of the Eras Tour movie, so I was a little zapped.
I'm going directly into the Eras Tour movie, so I'm talking Loki, and then I'm gonna get my Swift on. But anyway, with all of that said, you can find Travis on all of the social medias at Travis Political, where he does not post often, but when he does,
Jarod.
it's
And
good.
Again,
Good
thank
posts.
you guys for watting. Be sure to like,
Based.
comment, share, subscribe. You
Based.
can find me on Twitter and Instagram.
Good
And threads.
soup.
I don't
But
use
yeah,
it as much as I
I'm
wish I
going
did,
to throw
but I
to
forget.
future
And
me
until
to
Twitter
wrap
is
this
fully
show
done, I'm not probably going to use threads a whole lot. But once Twitter fucking implodes on itself, I'll surely switch over. But yeah, you can follow me there, Dark Jedi 2552 on all of the socials. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts, and on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where you can click on the student store link and help yourself to some Nerd Academy merch.
T-public.com.
And you can also consider supporting us on Patreon.
Give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandre Lloyd.
Colin Provolone. Sir.
So good.
Steal yourself, Colin! Steal yourself!
This is me stealing myself.
To Paco, aka Elix Jones.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
And to our dear $10 patron, Ray Clausen, who asks that you donate to Equality Texas to help keep queer kids safe in the Lone Star State. I'm impressed with the fact that I've gotten good at saying that. Speaking of our Patreon, again, consider donating at the $5 tier, where you get access to the Knights of the Nerd Republic Versus series, where you get an entire back catalog of around 30 episodes of bonus content, where Spencer and I break down hypothetical matchups between some of our favorite Star Wars lightsaber wielding Force user characters. We're getting caught up currently. We had a rough patch over the summer in terms of scheduling, but now that that's lifted, this week we're hoping to get out the rest of them. If not, it'll come out by the end of the month, and then we have the last two matchups of the year coming up after that. So stay tuned. This most recent more. Obi, so be serious. In our most recent episode, we discussed a matchup, as I said in the beginning, between Porter Engle, the Blade of Bardota, and Count Dooku as during his time as a Jedi Master. So go check that episode out. We were joined by Octo Radio and Casterly Talk's own Alden Diaz. We are finally getting some gears moving on Ionized Bastard Season 2. So stay tuned for all of that. Check all of those things out. Those are all linked in the description below. So check all of that out. Like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things. Thank you so very much for joining us. And class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.